This wasn't a hearing, it was an unmasking. Murray just exposed how political power is being used to punish the vulnerable and reward loyalty.
Thank you very much, Chair Britt, and I look forward to working with you and Ranking Member Murphy in this Congress. Madam Secretary, as Senator Murphy mentioned in his opening statement, Secretary Noem, under your leadership, we have seen you ignore our appropriation laws, our Constitution, common sense, and even basic humanity. And like a lot of Americans, I really have been horrified by the lawlessness and incompetence and cruelty that we have all witnessed. And for all the talk about going after criminals, you have sidetracked DHS staff who are investigating drug dealers, terrorists, human traffickers. And rather than photo ops, we need more of your focus on providing basic diligence, because your crackdown has roped in American citizens and people who are here legally with no criminal record. Now, I'm not going to ask you whether that was right or wrong. I know it's wrong. The world knows it's wrong. And I think the first thing the history is going to say about your leadership is that you were responsible for many of these travesties. So I'm deeply concerned. You've deported a 4-year-old U.S. citizen with cancer. You've disappeared people to a notorious prison in El Salvador. And you have spent $100 million in taxpayer dollars to air TV ads thanking President Trump. That is really reckless. It's unacceptable, and in my opinion, can't continue. The American people are paying for this with our taxpayer dollars and with their most basic rights. Now, in the last 3 months, you have frozen or canceled over $100 billion in funding that was approved by Congress, bipartisan. We are talking about everything from disaster relief to grants that keep people safe. But when my staff has requested information on the status of this unacceptable holdup, the department failed to provide any acceptable justification. This illegal freeze, and it is illegal, is taking a real toll on communities who are waiting on the investments that Congress has delivered. So will you commit to immediately unpausing these funds?
Well, Senator, thank you for covering a lot of topics there. Let me touch on a few of those right away.
Well,
what the Trump administration is doing is enforcing the law for the first time. Under the Biden administration,
I'm asking you about the funds.
Illegal aliens were prioritized over American citizens. Now the scales of justice have been leveled, and
Madam
no one
Chair,
is treated better than anyone else.
I asked you a
Citizens are
question.
treated the same,
Madam
and these
Secretary,
illegal aliens and criminals
answer.
are being
I heard
deported.
it previously. I'm asking you a specific
The grants
question.
that you are referencing,
Correct.
the grants that you are referencing have been paused and reevaluated to make sure that they are truly being spent in the way to which they were appropriated.
Well,
many of these grants were being diverted into things they were never intended
These funds were passed on a bipartisan basis by members.
Absolutely, and the Biden
Congress.
administration perverted them in how they used them, diverted them to facilitate illegal immigration, to house people in places like the Roosevelt Hotel, who held illegal criminals
We're
that took the life
Madam
of
Chair,
Lincoln
about
Riley.
$100
I think all of us
billion.
have recognized
It is
that
not credible
the
to
victims
me
here
that
are
all
the
the
people who have
recipients
died
of
and
that.
lost their children because
Madam
of this
Secretary,
situation.
it is not credible. Madam Chair, it is not credible that $100 billion is used to break the law. That just cannot be true. And let me change this a little bit. On the other hand, I am very concerned that DHS is now dramatically overspending funding that Congress has not provided. If you were a CEO doing that, I don't think you'd be in your job long. We need accountability and we need answers, and that includes informative responses to oversight questions sent to the department over the last 3 months. I am ranking member on this committee. I have worked with every member of this committee. We take our responsibility serious to fund your department and others. We need to have answers. We need to have accountability, and we need to make sure you're not overspending money that you were not allocated.
Well, thank you for that question. I will be very
It's not really
clear
a
in the
question, it's a
fact.
statement.
Do you want me to respond?
Well, you can.
Well, I've worked many jobs in my life, but I also have been a CEO. I've run
I'm not
businesses. I've been a
questioning your
governor.
credentials. I'm
and it
questioning
is
your spending.
we are prioritizing where our security needs are in this country, and we are hoping that this body will agree that reconciliation is necessary to address the things that have been neglected in this country for too long, that we have the technology upgrades, the manpower upgrades that are necessary. So the $170 billion request for the Department of Homeland Security
Madam
is
Chair,
incredibly
my time is
important to
running
make
out.
sure
and
we have the
I do have a
tools that
couple
we
of
need.
additional questions. The fact is that you've not been given this funding. Saying that it's going to come in reconciliation that has not passed is not an acceptable answer. I did want to ask about FEMA and disaster relief. This is really important. A lot of disaster relief has been politicized. You've endorsed eliminating FEMA outright. We have seen an upheaval at FEMA that is going to put lives in jeopardy. 1 in 5 FEMA employees have been pushed out, taking this administration's so-called buyout offer. We are losing indispensable staff just weeks away from fire and hurricane season, and over $100 billion in disaster relief and FEMA grants are still being held up. DHS is making it a lot harder to qualify for relief, something people in my home state of Washington are experiencing firsthand. Multiple requests from governors have been rejected in recent weeks, including a request from our state. And we haven't been given any response about this, and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, has President Trump directed you to prioritize funding for Republican states?
Absolutely not.
Have you directed your staff to prioritize funding to Republican-led states over Democratic
Absolutely
states?
not.
Have
There
your
is, under
staff
this administration, there will not be any politicization of support, relief, FEMA assistance, or grants given based on politics.
Well,
Every single person
there
will be
is a
treated the same.
clear
It will be very
trend,
different than the Biden
Madam
administration.
Secretary, there's a clear trend of Republican-led states getting very fast responses and funding. Democrat-led states are being forced to wait. We have never treated FEMA as a partisan issue in this country. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
This wasn't just a Senate hearing. What you saw was the sound of democracy trying to breathe through the weight of lawlessness. Senator Patty Murray didn't come to trade sound bites. She came to put a mirror in front of an administration that has blurred the line between governance and political vengeance. When she looks Kristi Noem in the eye and says, "You deported a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer," that isn't a talking point. It's a moral indictment. Because that one sentence carries the entire rot of a system that has lost sight of its own humanity. Think about what that means. The Secretary of Homeland Security, a person sworn to uphold the law, presides over policies so chaotic, so reckless, that a terminally ill child born on American soil can be sent to a foreign country like disposable paperwork. That's not policy. That's cruelty institutionalized. And then there's the money. Over $100 billion in disaster relief and recovery funds, frozen, blocked, delayed. Not because of some natural disaster, but because of a political one. These are funds Congress already approved, bipartisan funds, meant to rebuild homes after wildfires, to support communities after hurricanes, to keep small towns from going under. And yet, under Noem, those funds are trapped in bureaucratic limbo, reevaluated for supposed misuse. Let's call that what it is: weaponized obstruction. When an administration starts holding money hostage that was meant for disaster victims, that's not fiscal prudence, it's punishment disguised as oversight. It's power being used to send a message: loyalty pays, defiance costs. Senator Murray's frustration isn't partisan, it's constitutional. She's saying, in effect, who gave you the authority to rewrite the law? Because that's what's happening here. The power to allocate funds lies with Congress. When a cabinet secretary unilaterally decides what to freeze and what to spend, that's a direct assault on the balance of powers that keeps American democracy intact. And this isn't just about one budget line or one frozen grant. It's about the slow normalization of executive overreach, the quiet corrosion of democratic process that happens one decision at a time until suddenly the law no longer governs power, power governs the law. Murray's line of questioning forces that truth into the open. She asks if Republican-led states are being prioritized for FEMA relief while Democratic states are left waiting. And while Noem denies it, the pattern Murray points to is real. Approvals move faster for certain governors. Requests stall for others. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a political algorithm at work in disaster management. And that is terrifying, because it tells us something fundamental. Disaster relief, something that should be nonpartisan, urgent, human, is now being filtered through a political lens. Who you vote for might determine how fast your community gets help when it burns or floods. And Murray, in her calm but cutting tone, captures what makes that so unacceptable. She's not just defending her state or her party. She's defending the very premise that government should exist to serve all people, not just the ones that flatter those in power. Noem's answers, on the other hand, tell their own story. There's the evasive phrasing, we're reevaluating, we're prioritizing, we're ensuring accountability. These are the words of someone who wants to sound like they're upholding the law while actively subverting it. The very definition of bureaucratic gaslighting. And this moment, this hearing, reveals something bigger. A philosophy of governance that has taken root, that cruelty, chaos, and partisanship can be rebranded as strength. That if you punish the vulnerable under the banner of security, you can get away with anything. But Senator Murray cuts through that illusion. She reminds us that oversight isn't just about policy, it's about moral clarity. It's about looking at the machinery of power and saying, you don't get to turn the suffering of others into political theater. And that's what makes this hearing so powerful. It's not just about one secretary, one department, or even one administration. It's about a crossroads between accountability and autocracy, between compassion and control. The viewers watching this might not remember every number or policy reference, but they'll remember the tone in Murray's voice, the exhaustion of someone who's seen too much dysfunction, too much cruelty, and refuses to let it pass unchallenged. That's the heart of this moment. Democracy is not self-sustaining. It has to be defended, sometimes in hearings like this one, against the steady creep of power that forgets its purpose. And that's why this exchange matters. It's not about one headline. It's about the moral test of leadership. Whether the people running the country see those they govern as citizens or as obstacles. Because when a 4-year-old with cancer becomes collateral damage, when billions in disaster aid are frozen for political convenience, and when the people responsible can sit before Congress and smile through it, that's when you realize the danger isn't just policy failure, it's moral collapse. That's why Left Lens exists, to break through the noise, to remind viewers that politics isn't just about power plays and headlines, it's about people. It's about the families who can't rebuild their homes because their FEMA checks never arrived. It's about the child who never made it back home because of a broken system with no heart left in it. If this hearing left you angry, good, it should. That anger is the beginning of awareness, and awareness is the beginning of accountability. So stay engaged, stay informed, and don't just watch, understand, because understanding is power. If you value analysis that goes beyond the surface, that connects the dots between policy and people, between law and life, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Left Lens, and hit the bell icon, because the fight for truth and accountability doesn't stop here, and neither should we.